Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining and taking time from your schedule to join for this webinar. Today's webinar, Next Gen Data Security for BFSI in India, Staying Ahead of Threats and Regulations, is an exclusive leadership exchange brought to you by 𝐍𝐞𝐽𝐿 Business Media in association with IBM. So we have prepared a valuable 45-minute session for you, and it's my pleasure to welcome a distinguished gathering of security, compliance, and risk leaders, along with IT leaders, innovators, and practitioners, all under one roof today. Your presence underscores the growing importance of building resilient, compliant, and future-ready security frameworks in the BFSI and fintech ecosystem. So before we begin, just a quick housekeeping guidelines to ensure a smooth experience for everyone. Please keep your microphone muted during the session to maintain a focused, distraction-free environment for all the participants. Our partners at IBM will answer your questions during the Q&A session. We would love to hear from you, so please feel free to post your questions in the Q&A chat module. We request your permission to record the session. Following the conclusion of the session, we will provide you with a link to access the recording, allowing you to revisit the content or share it with your colleagues as needed. So to get started, here's a clear overview of today's session structure. Today's webinar is divided into three main segments. A keynote presentation titled Next Gen Data Security for BFSI in India, Staying Ahead of Threats and Regulations. There will be a live demo session, a deep dive on a real scenario solving a complex challenge, and a question and answer session. We also encourage you to actively participate in polls, Q&A, and discussion throughout the session. So let's start with our opening keynote with a warm welcome to Mr. Tushar Haralkar, who leads the data security posture at IBM, India, and South Asia. Before we proceed, a reminder to all participants, please use the Q&A chat module to share your questions or comments. Over to you, Tushar.
Hey, thanks, Adil. Thank you so much for the introduction. Let me quickly share my screen. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, it is visible.
Great. Great. So thanks for the introduction and welcome all. Before we get started, one quick question I wanted to start with is, how many of you know exactly who is accessing your sensitive data, let's say in the last 24 hours, which could be across your on-premise, cloud, and now AI workloads? So if that question has made you pause and think, you are actually in the right session. And with that context, I want to get started that this session, I'm going to cover how IBM is helping, especially the BFSI segment. And as you know, India's BFSI segment is heavily regulated, especially with the regulators like RBI, SEBI, IRDAI, right? And now with the privacy aspect of DPDP Act also getting launched, the visibility, accountability has also increased. So in this session, I'm going to talk about how IBM is going to help, especially the BFSI businesses, to stay ahead of threats and regulation. So basically two aspects of it. One is of course compliance, and the second is the risk. So while we do that, there are three technologies that we see are creating significant impact in the data security market today. So one of the technologies is, as enterprises are adopting digital transformation, they are also adopting hybrid cloud, because now they just can't be on premise. If they have to scale, they have to be on cloud. So, and not only one cloud, but on multiple clouds, right? So it becomes a hybrid environment for them. Now, what is the challenge with that? The challenge, of course, is now the data is exponentially growing. It just does not reside on premise. It is spread across hybrid cloud. So what is the impact? The impact is obviously lack of visibility. And because there is lack of visibility, there is no protection. And because there is no protection, there are breaches, there are data breaches which are happening. And then also it leads to non-compliance. So that is one aspect of it. The second aspect, is the adoption of AI. We all know the benefits, the tremendous value that AI adds to our day-to-day life, right? And from a cybersecurity lens perspective, what it has also done is, while the evolution of AI from just ML to Gen AI to agentic AI has happened, the attack surface has also expanded. There is a new attack surface that we need to protect. And when we ask a lot of CISOs or C-level execs, they say that they want an AI which is responsible and trustworthy, right? So how do you make sure that a lot of AI projects move from pilot to production? That's the second aspect of it. And last but not the least, quantum. While a lot of enterprises may say that quantum computing will take time. It is like we can wait for the next 5 years. There is no threat currently, but the fact of the matter is that quantum computing is really maturing very fast. And today, when we say that our data is secure because it is encrypted, because our data at rest, data in use, and data in motion is encrypted, that will not be safe once quantum computing gets matured. So these are the three technologies that we see as a disruption if not taken care of at an early stage. So what can we do about it? So there are three aspects to look at this. So when we talk about hybrid cloud, as I said, visibility, lack of visibility is a bigger problem. So how do you make sure that you get visibility into where your sensitive data resides? And then how do you have the protection around it, where you have the guardrails to make sure that those sensitive data is protected? And last but not the least, the compliance. How do you make sure there is a complete audit trail of who, what, when, where, how, right? And when we talk about AI, the same set of challenges, again, visibility, right? How do you make sure that in your enterprise, who is deploying AI, right? There could be scenarios where you could eventually lead into a shadow AI, right? So how do you bring visibility into the shadow AI? Then how do you, from a protection perspective, have the guardrails to protect against the different attacks of AI, like the profanity checks or the prompt injection attacks, hallucination, all of that, right? And then finally, compliance, right? While specifically from an India perspective, there are a lot of governance related regulations that have come from an AI perspective, but from a security perspective, you will start to see that now, where the regulators like RBI, SEBI, and all of that will come up with the regulation around protecting the AI, having a complete audit trail of what's happening with the AI deployment. So that's the third part. Again, from a quantum perspective, visibility is going to be a bigger challenge because you need to know which are your applications, which are your systems, which are using cryptography, right? And what level of cryptography is used. That is first part. The second part is, once you understand the complete posture of your cryptography, then you need to have the protection controls around it. Like, for example, if you are using a weak cryptography, how do you make sure that that is replaced by quantum safe cryptography? And last but not the least, again, from a compliance perspective, how do you make sure that the complete audit trail of your applications from a quantum safe perspective is in place? So visibility, protection, and compliance across these three technologies is going to be very, very crucial. Now, as we know, one of the reasons why security is becoming so important is compliance, right? And as you can see, right, there are different kind of compliance, and there are a lot of fines associated with that. So uh, so obviously you do not want to pay fines, and you want to stay compliant, because every penny saved is every penny earned, right? So you want to stay 100% compliant. But now the compliance regulations are getting very stringent, and especially with the privacy aspect of it. So typically when I ask a CISO that do you have the security controls in place, with a lot of pride they will say, oh yes, we have endpoint security, we have network, we have all the kind of controls like identity, data, and all of that. But if I ask, okay, what are the privacy controls, maybe most of the times the answer will be, we are working on it, right? So I think that is where, thanks to the much needed privacy regulations like DPDP Act, which has been launched on 13th of November, it's now 2 months over. We have more, 1 year and 16, 1 year. It's total 1 year and 18 months to complete. So 2 months are gone out of that. So we all know what is DPDP Act. DPDP Act focuses only on any data that is any personal data that is in the digital form. What that also means is, if I take a picture copy of, let's say, Aadhaar card and digitized it, save it in a digitized format, that also comes under the surveillance of DPDP Act, right? And we know the huge fines that are associated with this, which is 250 crores, which is huge. Again, as I said, right, you don't want to pay the penalties. You want to have the right controls to make sure that you're compliant. Now, there are two aspects to this whole background. One is the compliance aspect, and the second aspect is the risk. So when I say risk, the threats, how do you make sure that you mitigate those, right? So IBM has got this approach or a framework to mitigate that, the whole compliance and the risk part of it. So what we firmly believe is what I spoke about at the start of the session is visibility, right? So I spoke about the challenge of visibility, but how do you solve that visibility challenge? So what we firmly believe that you need to have the controls to discover the data. So when I say discovery has two parts to it. One is you should be able to discover how, what type of data sources you have in enterprises, how many data sources you have. For example, if I ask someone in the enterprise that, hey, how many databases you have, they may not be able to accurately answer that. Some may say 100, 200, but when we actually go and scan, let's say if they say 100, it is found that, most of the times that, they have more 100, which they probably did not have visibility into. So discovery of the databases, the data sources. So when I say databases, it could be any kind of database, big data, data warehouse, SAP HANAs, any kind of databases where your data is stored. First, discover that. It could be and it could be, any form and shape. The data could be structured, unstructured, semi-structured, doesn't matter. So the first step to solve the visibility problem is the ability to discover your data sources wherever it is at rest or it is on the network. Second is to discover the data inside that database, right? For example, any PII data like the Aadhaar card, credit card, or any kind of sensitive data that you want to go and discover across the structured and unstructured and across the hybrid cloud, right? That becomes the key aspect of it. So once you are able to discover the data sources, the data, then the next step is obviously to classify that. So classification could be based on the regulations like DPDP Act, GDPR, it could be RBI, SEBI, right? Different regulations, or it could be based on the sensitivity of the data, right? It could be highly confidential, public, and all of that, right? Or it could be classification could also be based on the business context, right? So that is very important. And one of the discussions that I had with one of the BFSI client was that should classification be done first before discovery, right? And interestingly, his view was that classification should be done first before doing discovery. Now, I had a strong point of view there that you can only classify if you know how many data sources you have, okay? Only then you can go and classify. But the biggest challenge today is we do not know how many data sources we have, where all it is present, where all the PI data is present. So if you do not know that, how are you going to classify? Because there will always be a chance of unknown. So it becomes very important to first do discovery, then do classification. Okay. That's the first step to solve the visibility problem, right? And coming back to the same question, the first question that I asked, do you, how many of you really know, who is accessing your sensitive data, maybe in the last 24 hours? So you need to have controls like database activity monitoring to make sure that you have that visibility, right? So those are the things that will actually come once you discover your PI data, because what you cannot see, you can't protect. And that is where the next step comes, which is the protection phase, right? In protection phase, you need to have controls, like I mentioned, the database activity monitoring, you need to have data encryption, right? All of those controls need to be in place to protect what you have discovered. Now, the whole thing with the protect phase is that it relies on policies, right? You have defined a policy, and based on that policy, it is detecting the threats, right? But the reality is not not all the threats can be detected only using the policies, because the attacks are getting sophisticated day by day. You can't just rely on policies, right? So what becomes important is to look at the next phase, which is analyze, which is proactive in nature. The protect phase, I would say, is more of reactive, because you have defined a policy, and then based on that, it will do the real-time monitoring, and then depending on the risk, it will do blocking and all of that, right? But analyze phase, we believe, is very important to proactively assess what is the risk with your data, right? So if you want to look at from the CXO lens, you need to able to see, okay, I need to know what is the risk with my data, okay, irrespective of structured or unstructured, and how that risk maps to the industry known threat vectors. Like it could be, I want to see how many account takeovers have happened, how many SQL injection attacks have happened, how many malicious stored procedures have happened in my organization. So I should be able to just scroll down and see that dashboard, right? And all of this should be powered by AI, okay? Because I can't just rely on static policies, okay? I need to be able to have technologies like AI to be able to do machine learning and also give me that visibility without relying on policies. So analyze phase is very important, because it helps to proactively detect the risk, right? And that is how we address the second challenge which I spoke about, in terms of how do you protect. But when you protect, you have to not only protect in reactive manner, you also have to protect in a proactive manner, and that is where the analyze phase becomes very important. And then obviously, once you analyze the risk, now what are you going to do with that risk? You obviously have to take an action, and that is where the respond phase comes in, where you typically, one of the best practices is to send that risk to a SOC, Security Operations Center, typically a SIM and a SOAR, right? Where depending on, once the correlation is done, then typically based on the risk, you can either automate or orchestrate or take an action on that, right? And then finally, comply with the different regulations from RBI, SEBI, IRDA, and of course now with DPDP Act as well, right? The privacy aspect of it. So we firmly believe that this whole framework, which we call as a DPARC, okay, which is like DPARC, DPARC framework, we believe that this is the approach that needs to be taken um, to take care of those challenges that I spoke about. Okay. Now, how does IBM solve this? How does IBM take care of this whole framework? Is where the IBM Guardium solution comes. IBM Guardium solution helps to address that. So if you look at right on the top, you have data repositories. This is where typically your different kind of repositories, like your traditional RDBMS, like Oracle, MySQL, Postgres, or open source databases, or cloud native databases like PaaS, all of that, which is across your on-premise, multiple cloud, all of that are there, right? And this is the platform, the unified platform that we're talking about, which is Guardium, will basically protect that. Okay. Now, depending on the use case, you can basically plug in that particular module. For example, if your use case is only to do database activity monitoring, then we have data protection. So typically, database activity monitoring, what I have seen based on my experience, most of the enterprises are 90%, I would say, are only doing monitoring. And depending on the risk, some enterprises have started doing blocking, which is getting into the prevention mode, but most of them are only doing monitoring. But the fact of the matter is that there are other use cases that you can do with just the database activity monitoring, which is DAM, is you can also start with doing discovery and classification for your structured data. Then you can also assess your database, because it's not only about the insider threats, right? It could be that your database itself is vulnerable. So how do you go and scan your database by scanning your database for vulnerabilities, which could be against your CVEs, CIS, STIGs, all of that, right? So that is also equally important, because the data can be exfiltrated as well if your database has vulnerabilities. Then there are a lot of capabilities, as I was talking about the analyze phase, where you need to be able to proactively get visibility of what is the risk with your data, right? And able to map that with the industry known attack vectors. This is something I will show live in the demo. I'm just going to show this specific use case live in the demo as well, how this visibility looks like. And we firmly believe that this is something that organizations should start implementing it, and not just rely on monitoring and blocking. And then there are a few capabilities that are also available in terms of the encryption, like the masking and redaction. So I will, before I go into the other use cases, specifically for database activity monitoring, we would like to conduct a quick poll, and then get your views in terms of, where do you see DAM as a solution from your perspective. And then I will basically go into the other use case. So Adil, can we just project the poll, please? Thanks. So this is one of the poll, and we want to really understand what is your primary reason for monitoring the database activity today. Is it more from a compliance perspective? Is it more from insider threats? Or is it more from protecting again, you want to prevent the data breaches, or you want to really do a real-time threat detection and integrate with your SOC? Or all of this is the reason where you want to really take care of this, or maybe currently you're not monitoring any database activity at all.
So whenever you're ready, Tushar, we can display the results.
Yeah, please display the results. I mean, I'm done. I was just waiting for the results actually.
Yeah.
Oh, all of the above. Oh, that's great. Only 4%. I think we need to really talk to that 4%. Why you're not monitoring the database activities, because data is the crown jewel, and it's very important that that crown jewel has to be protected. So I think it's great to see that there is higher percentage, that 72% of them feel that all of this about all the other aspects are important, which is compliance plus risk. But I'm more worried about those 4%. So thanks for this. Thanks a lot. This helps. And with that, while we're talking about database activity monitoring, let me quickly also show you the demo of the visibility that I was talking about, right? So now if I go to the demo, this is how the Guardian console looks like. And the analytics part that I was talking about, which is powered by AI/ML, the kind of visibility that we give proactively without relying on any policies, is there are two engines which runs in the background. One is the active threat analytics, which basically gives you the posture of the data security posture of your organization, where it will tell you that one is, it will basically tell you that, okay, it will map the risk of the data with the industry known threat vectors. For example, as a CISO or as a CXO, I want to see that, hey, how many cross-site scripting or how many malicious stored procedures have happened, or how many SQL injection attacks have happened in my organization. I can see that. I can basically look at this particular observation where I see this user, which is Don, is exceptionally doing high volume of activities. Okay, uh, because of which it has been categorized under denial of service. So I can basically go drill down on this and then see more. And I can see that, okay, what are the distribution in terms of off hours, working hours, off hours, weekend, and what are the distribution of the commands like select commands, DDL, DML commands, and then I can actually go more deeper into it, and then see the complete audit trail of this, and I can filter this, and I want to say that, hey, I want to only look at what are the sensitive objects which are accessed. So I can see who was the user, who from which client IP, source application, what were the commands. So you can see this user was actually trying to access some customers sensitive tables, right? Which is not a normal behavior, right? Then you can also see what are the outliers, what are the SQL errors, what are the policy violations, what are the vulnerabilities. The database that the person was trying to access has vulnerabilities, so on and so forth, right? Similarly, you can take another example of the malicious stored procedure, right? If I want to see, okay, how many malicious stored procedure happened, I can go and see, and I can see what was the original stored procedure, what was modified. So, for example, a disgruntled employee has injected some malicious script in a stored procedure. So I can see what was original, what was changed, right? I can see all of that. So this is how the overall data security posture looks like, which leverages the AI and ML capability and gives you without relying on the policy. But there is a second engine also, which we call as Risk Spotter, which tells you who are the top risky users, the risky DBA users in your organization, right? So for example, in this case, if I hover over this user called Polly, I can see the risk score of this particular DBA is 7.25 out of 10, which tells me that this is a risky user. But why this is risky, it also gives that indicator, right? It could be risky because this DBA has violated a policy, or he's trying to run too many DDL or DML commands, or because this user is doing suddenly high volume of activity. This DBA generally works 9 to 5, but suddenly he's trying to access out of office hours, right? All of that. So it basically looks at different indicators, and then gives the risk score. So this risk score helps me to identify that, yes, this is a risky user. But it is just not the risk score. It also looks at the different indicators and explains why this risk score is very high. So I can actually go and click this user, and I can basically say that because this is a risky user, I want to integrate, with a ticketing tool. In this case, it is ServiceNow. It could be any other tool as well. But for the demo purpose, it is ServiceNow. And then I can just save it, and then a ticket is automatically created, because most of the enterprises don't want to take an action immediately. They want to raise a ticket, and from the ticket it will basically initiate the workflow. So here the integration with ServiceNow is shown, where automatically the ticket with all the details have been published in ServiceNow, and the ServiceNow will go and trigger that workflow for taking further action, right? So this way you can also see. So if you see that, if you feel that, oh, some of the user you want to keep it in the watch list, you can also do that, right? All of that is possible. And here is a simple dashboard to view who are the top risky users. So this is something, very, very useful. And we are seeing, apart from just purely monitoring and blocking, this is something we encourage our clients to start leveraging this capability, and the database vulnerabilities as well, right? This is also equally important. Some of the enterprises feel, oh, we already have a vulnerability assessment tool, but this is something which is specialized for databases, right? It will help you not only give you vulnerabilities, but also tell you what are the default configurations. Like if a database is running on default username, password, default port, it will also help you to, let's say, if somebody is going and changing the registry, okay, like if there is a privilege escalation attack, if there are some registry changes which have happened, so we can actually go and scroll through the file systems and tell that if there is changes in the registry or not. So all of that becomes, all of those use cases becomes very important. And as you can see, right, you can view, you can get the visibility of what are the vulnerabilities that are associated, what type of databases vulnerabilities are there, and what is the severity of that vulnerability, most importantly, right? Because that is how you can prioritize it. And then what you can also do is you can use the discovery use case, which I spoke about, right? In terms of different templates. So as you can see, there are different templates, out of the box templates, which are already available now. Similarly for DPDP Act also we have. And then here you can say, okay, what you want to discover. So once you discover, let's say once you discover the data sources, as I said, classification is important, right? So we have out of the box classification templates. Like for example, you can see for bank card, I have a template. So these are nothing but the regular expressions, right? For each of those Aadhaar card and everything, we have a template. And then basically I can go and uh, go and discover wherever I have given, let's say I've given that this is the IP range I want to go and scan and find where my sensitive data resides, then I can do that. And it gives me exactly which table, which column, all of that, which data source, it is in MySQL and all of that. So it exactly tells me this is the data source, inside this table, this information is present, right? All of that. So this is also something which I am seeing organizations are not leveraging to the fullest, which we firmly believe that organizations should start doing it. And then there are a few dashboards as well, which you can build very easily. Like for example, you want to see data activity reports, right? You can see what are activities, what access. So first question, who all are accessing your sensitive data, right? So you can see who all are accessing your sensitive data. And you want to, let's say, want a report which says, show me a report of non-standard working hours, who are accessing beyond the working hours. So it can show you that. It can also show you the discovery part of it, right? How many database types have been discovered, like what all types of databases today you have, all of that, right? So different dashboards you can basically create. You can see what are the suspicious activities. If you want a report where you want to really see what are the suspicious activities, you can also see that. So the whole thing about is tomorrow, if let's say, you want to show this to the auditor, or you want to pass your internal audits, external audits, this tool can help you do that, right? And it also gives out of the box templates for the compliances that I spoke about, like for GDPR, for all of these different compliance, similarly for DPDP Act and all of that. And also it will give out of the box policies, okay, which is already shipped in. So the moment you install Guardium, these policies are already there, and you can analyze this over a period of time, because as you deploy, as you progress, this policies also has to be analyzed, fine-tuned. Basis on that, you will start getting some meaningful data, right? Because obviously you do not want to monitor everything. Maybe at the start you want to monitor everything, but as you progress, you want to really fine tune your policies. Otherwise, storage becomes a bigger issue, right? So this is what I wanted to basically show you as part of the overall demo. Now, switching back to the slides, we covered, so I spoke about the database activity monitoring use case. I showed the live demo. There are other use cases as well from a data perspective, obviously, which is very important, is your data at rest. You need to have controls around the data at rest, data in use, data in motion has to be encrypted. It is a must to have control, right? And the keys of that has to be securely stored, right? Centrally stored. Because if you lose the keys, the data is gone, right? So the key is very important. So how do you make sure that, especially with your data spread across on-premise and cloud, the key has to be safely secured, right? So the key management aspect becomes very important. Now, what we are seeing, as I said, right, within the DAM tool, organizations who are doing discovery and classification, but they're only doing for structured data. And that is, as I showed, that is very limited to regular expression. But from a privacy aspect, right, which is from a DPDP Act perspective, it talks about discovery and classification across structured, unstructured, and the accuracy has to be close to 100%. You cannot have false positives, right? So every tool will say that they do discovery and classification, but the bigger question is, what is the accuracy level of that? Is it close to 100%? And that is what matters. So Guardium helps to give you 100%, close to 100% accuracy, because we just don't rely on regular expression. We rely on other techniques as well, like the ML technology. We also look at the data dictionary, and there are different technologies that we look at. We can do a deep dive on how do we achieve that close to 100% accuracy. But to let you know, we do discovery classification across structured, semi-structured, unstructured, across hybrid cloud. And as part of DPDP Act, one of the asks is to produce a DSAR report. So we also do that DSAR report, which is data subject access request, where let's say if you want to, as a data principal, if I come to you and say that I want to know where my PI data is stored, I can easily pull out that information, because we maintain that relationship between the identity and the PI data, right? So we can easily pull out that information where all the PI is stored. That becomes very important. And then obviously the data security posture management, as I said, for the enterprises, for the enterprises who are completely on cloud, right? Then this becomes very important, because let's say if one of the use cases, let's say you move the data from Europe to India, it's a GDPR violation, right? The other is most of the time, the data breaches we saw when I started the session, right? The data breaches, typically 80% of that happens on cloud. Why it happens? Because of maybe misconfiguration, or maybe the database is exposed to internet and you're not aware about it. So how do you get visibility into the shadow data? And then last but not the least, the vulnerabilities of the database itself, right? So these are the different use cases that we see from a data security posture management perspective, which is DSPM. And then the last two technologies are the AI security and quantum safe. So from an AI security perspective, uh, one of the things that we are seeing a lot of traction on this is, we all know the benefits of what AI is adding to security, right? In terms of automation, in terms of enhancing the workflows, and all of that, detecting advanced threats, all of that, right? But what we are seeing now, which is becoming so important, is security for AI. How do you make sure the AI itself is secure? Because if AI is not secure, how will you build the trust? See, the whole thing is about the trust, right? If you don't trust a technology, then you are not going to adopt it. And that's where security for AI is becoming very important. And we see three use cases around that. One is visibility into shadow AI, because enterprises are deploying AI, but it could be a case that there is some department, let's say HR, who is also deploying AI and you're not aware about it. Somebody is downloading some model from Hugging Face. There are some 1 million plus models on Hugging Face. Somebody is downloading that, and as we know, it has open source models. There are high probability that somebody might have injected a malware into that, and that can lead to supply chain attacks, right? So shadow AI is becoming very, very important, where you need to get visibility into that. Okay. The second is, how do you get visibility into the overall AI security posture management? Because you also need to know what are the vulnerabilities, what are the CV vulnerabilities, what are the misconfigurations of AI, what are the pen testing, right? For example, we always do pen testing, but do we do for the AI? Maybe not, right? Because we want to also make sure the red teaming exercises, the pen testing is done in terms of the prompt injection attacks, hallucinations, profanity checks, so on and so forth. There is a laundry list. So just like we have OAPS top 10 for the web, we have OAPS top 10 for LLM also, for LLM as well. So how do you comply to that, right? So AI security posture management becomes very important. That is the another use case that we are seeing. And last but not the least is the usage, basically where let's say a chatbot is already live. Okay, your chatbot is already live, and whatever input is coming in that chatbot and whatever output is coming, how do you make sure that there are guardrails to protect the input and output? So if somebody is giving an input, they are not making, so you are making sure there is no PII data that is getting transformed, or there is no code injection that is happening, or there is no data that is getting exfiltrated from your AI, so on and so forth, right? So how do you make sure, from a protection perspective, you have those necessary guardrails in between, so that your input and output prompt is protected, right? That is the second part of that is a use case where you need to make sure once your AI is live, it is still protected, right? Interestingly, what we are also seeing is a lot of use cases specifically on AI from a DevSecOps perspective. So one of the use case from a DevSecOps was, while the developers are developing this models and injecting into the application, can you go and scan that and find, what are the, can you go and scan that and do sort of a red teaming exercises or pen test and find out what are the vulnerabilities, are those models effective when it comes to prompt injection or jailbreak and those kind of, OAP stop LLM threats? Is it able to cope up with those kind of threats or not, right? So that is also something very interestingly we are seeing at the DevOps or DevSecOps stage, where the developer starts embedding this AI into the applications. And last but not the least, what we are also doing is we are also integrating this with the governance, where we have watsonx, because we firmly believe that this problem cannot be just solved by the security use cases. You also need a stronger governance aspect of it. Where what I mean by governance is you need to be able to also make sure your model is fair, it's not biased, right? All of those principles of governance, right? Where your model should be explainable, right? Why it is recommending that, all of that. So all those governance aspect plus security is going to eventually build the trust for AI, and that is how the adoption is going to happen. That's the point of view that we have. And then last but not the least, from a quantum perspective, as I said, coming back to the same challenge on visibility, right? So sooner or later, you will see the regulators like RBI, SEBI. I think SEBI and IRDA have already mentioned this, that you need to start getting visibility. You may not protect it at this point in time, but you should start getting visibility by CBOM, which is the cryptographic bill of material. Okay, which will tell you what are your cryptographic assets today in your organization, what are the cipher, what is the complete cipher posture that you have, right? What are the applications which use what type of cipher? It is TLS 1.2, 1.3, all of that, right? So it's basically getting the complete view of your inventory, getting the complete security posture of your cryptography. And then once you have the visibility, then help also to prioritize that. Because if there are, let's say, 10 applications, and out of 10 applications, it will tell that these 3 applications are critical because the severity or the vulnerability is high and it is business critical. So you need to first fix this 3. The rest 7 can be looked at a later stage, right? So that is the second part. And the third use case is finally, how do you go and replace those weak cryptography with quantum safe? So it is with a lot of pride that we can say that NIST has approved some 4 quantum safe algorithms, and IBM research team has contributed to 3 of them, right? And as you know, IBM is also heavily invested on the quantum computers itself, right? So both are different, right? Quantum computers are different, quantum safe is different. IBM's vision is to make sure we bring useful computing to the world, and also at the same time make sure we are quantum safe, right? So those are the different use cases that we firmly believe that needs to be looked at, because post quantum cryptographic risk, the PQC, is something which we have seen a lot of banking, especially the banking customers, have already started. They are saying that we want to make sure that our banking applications are PQC enabled, right? We don't want to wait while the quantum computing becomes stronger and then the data gets compromised. We don't want to wait. We want to proactively start this journey, because this journey is also eventually going to take a lot of time, right? So those are the use cases that we believe from an overall data security perspective are very important from overall Guardium platform standpoint. And what we have also done is, I'll not go through all of this, because this is just to give you a flavor of, let's say, if you're in banking, you want to comply to the RBI guidelines with relates to database activity monitoring. So what we have done is we have done a mapping of that, right? What does the RBI guidelines say? What is the corresponding IBM Guardium use case that we can help you to comply? So how we can help you to 100% comply to RBI guidelines and also your internal audit. So we have done that for RBI. Similarly, we have done that for SEBI as well. We have done the one-to-one mapping for SEBI as well. And for DPDP Act as well, right? From a DPDP Act perspective, exactly mapping the rules against what the use case is. We have done all of that. And then this actually gives you a view of typically your data when it is stored in the databases. How do we really go and from an architecture perspective, but just very quickly in the interest of the time, very quickly to give you a perspective that we do support both agent-based and agentless architecture. So what we do is on your database, we deploy a lightweight agent, which is called STAP. And for, let's say, if your database is cloud native, which is typically a DBaaS or a PaaS, then we have a proxy agent, which is called ETAP. Okay. And if you want the agentless approach where you say that, hey, I don't want to put any agent, then we also have something called universal connector and streaming APIs, which can connect to directly your database and pull the logs. The only thing in this agentless approach is you need to enable the native logging, whereas the agent-based approach, you don't have to enable the native logging, right? That's the difference. And then we can basically take care of one of the USPs of the Guardium solution is the ability to integrate with all kind of databases. We have integrated a lot of open source databases. Even the databases that we don't support, we are able to quickly develop a universal connector using which we can go and monitor that, right? So we can monitor all kind of databases. And then, as I said, eventually we can integrate all of this into your SOC, which is your Siemens SOC. Okay. Now, why IBM? Obviously, the question is, why IBM? So what are the top? So what are the top? Just a key takeaway from this session. What are the top highlights of Guardium solution? One is, we are not saying this. This is come from the leading analysts like Forrester and KuppingerCole, where they have rated us as the leaders in this space. And the benefit of IBM is that, we are not just security company, right? We also have the experience on the data and on the AI part as well. So nobody better than us understands the databases. Like we have IBM DB2. We also have AI from watsonx. So nobody better than us understands this. So we are able to give the whole end-to-end security, data, and AI aspect of it. And also we are heavily investing, as I mentioned, on the security for AI and also the quantum safe use cases. And as I said, with quantum safe, we're also investing in quantum computing. So we bring a holistic view. When you compare us with the other security vendors, IBM brings this whole holistic perspective to give you that value. And as I said, one of the other USPs is the ability to integrate with all kind of database, be it open source, be it on-premise, cloud, like cloud native, big data, SAP HANA, anything. And also, discover and classify across structured, unstructured, across your hybrid cloud. And we support both the architecture, agent and agentless. And most importantly, we also do a real-time monitoring and blocking for your databases, which could be residing on-premise or on cloud. And the data security posture management, which I mentioned, is also something which we do. And we also have the solution on the marketplace. So if you are on AWS or Azure or Google or any other cloud, we already have our solution on marketplace, which can be leveraged. And we also have built-in the demo that I showed, right? We have built-in cognitive analytics capability, which is powered by machine learning, which helps you to detect the threats proactively. And the best part is the licensing is very flexible. So we charge you only for the active database. We don't charge you for the passive, while we install the agent on the passive, but we don't charge for it. And because we understand you will scale, your databases will scale. So you want to only charge you for the databases which are active and not passive. Right. And as I said, the KuppingerCole and Forrester, what I just said, they are resonating. And this is something which is there in the report. Why you should look at IBM, because we have a broad coverage of database, and Forrester exactly saying what I just said, that we go beyond security. We also innovating a lot on the AI part and post-quantum as well. And these are some of the quotes from our clients, where if you see, this is my favorite quote, which is highlighted in black, that, you want a product, which can do more, basically, which can do more with less, right? And also as you scale, right, the scalability part is really good, because as you can see, right, as you keep on adding databases, it is very easy, and centrally managing all of that also is something from a usability standpoint, the customer has said. And most importantly, this has helped, this tool has helped them to pass all the internal and external audits. So with that, this is my last slide, and I spoke about a lot of use cases. And if you are interested, you want to go deep into the demo, we can always do that. So please let us know, and we are happy to do that. And we can also have one-on-one meetings if you would want us to really go deep into each of these use cases. But before I conclude, just I want to take a quick poll on the other use cases. Adil, if you can just bring up the poll for the AI security, please.
Yeah, 1 second. Tushar, is that the third or the fourth poll?
Sorry, bring the third poll, please.
Okay.
So what is your biggest security concern, when you're deploying Gen AI or AI in your organization? So one, obviously, is a lot of enterprises say that, they want to make sure that the data leakage doesn't happen via input and output prompt. There should not be any unauthorized access to the models. Typically, the data is stored in vector DBs. How do you protect that? How do the other concern is the lack of visibility, like the shadow AI, I mentioned. The model should not hallucinate and all of that. And then obviously the last is, we are currently not deploying any AI or Gen AI workloads. So once you're ready with the results, if you can just showcase that.
Yeah, for that we need to wait for 5 seconds. Displaying the results. People are still voting.
Sure.
Yeah, it's live now.
Oh, great. Oh, interesting. I mean, a lot of people have not started the AI deployment, and good to see the percentage of, all of the other have been voted. So that's a good view that we have got. But yes, definitely, I think the 20% who have not yet deployed, maybe they have not deployed because of the security concerns that are there. But if you have those concerns, please do reach out. We want to really bring that up. We want to increase the percentage of all the above, and make sure that we, as I said, we have a solution to address for the rest 20%, and also the 70% who have that concerns. So yeah, thanks. Can you bring up the next poll, please, for the quantum? Yeah, thanks. So again, from a quantum perspective, we want to really understand what's the biggest concern related to, quantum safe. One is the whole strategy, as we know, of hackers is, they will harvest now and decrypt later. So they will keep on stealing your data. And once the quantum computing comes, they will just decrypt it, right? Is that your concern? Or second is lack of visibility, where you do not know which all applications are using what cryptography. Or third is, the impact of this PQC, which is going to have on your applications. Or is it like all of this above, or, you are also not clear in terms of what is the regulatory guidelines around this quantum safe. And last, obviously, you're not yet considering quantum safe at all. This would be interesting to know, because I think this is a fairly hot topic. Most of them are talking about it.
Sure, let's wait for
Sure.
5-10 seconds for people to vote.
Yeah. Okay. So this is quite balanced, actually. I can see that most of the people are not clear from a regulatory perspective, because yeah, one of the reasons why this would be adopted is the regulatory guidelines. But yes, we can help you with that. A lot of like SEBI has mandated that the CBOM and the PQC has to be taken care of. So if those of you who follow SEBI, that is something which is already there, we can share with you. And for the rest who are not considering quantum because they feel that it will take time, please do reach out to us and we can help you translate that thought process, because the journey itself is going to take a lot of time. So thanks for this. If you can just post the last poll, which is the poll number 2, just to give a perspective of poll number 2, please.
Yeah, sure. Number 2. Yeah.
This is the last poll. We just wanted to understand that, where do you find currently? So the earlier poll where we had 70% of them said they are monitoring. So where are you finding it challenging? Are you finding it challenging to monitor your cloud native databases or on-premise databases or hybrid? Or maybe, I think the 4% which said that they're not monitoring, or you're not monitoring any of that. So you can choose to poll, please.
Yeah, give me 2 seconds. People are still voting, and
This will
yes.
give us a view of your data landscape, and also give us visibility the complexity that would be involved, and we can help you wherever there is a challenge.
There you go.
Okay, hybrid, perfect. I think it resonates with what I started with. So hybrid is where organizations are moving towards, and I think I would be again more concerned about that 11% who are not currently monitoring. But yes, cloud native is also something is what this is completely resonating with what I'm seeing in the market today. Cloud native is something organizations are struggling, but believe me, you give us time, we will walk you through the solution of in detail how do we take care of the cloud native monitoring and also the on-premise, which is a hybrid. So thanks. I think this really helps to get a perspective. This is really good. So with that, I am done, Adil, and over to you for concluding this. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tushar, for the insightful session. Now, there are a few questions, like, or people have added a few. Let me just go through it and let's move to our Q&A part. So the first question what we have is from Madhurkar Srivastava.
Mhm.
So Madhurkar is asking that my team oversee the digital landscape, primarily workplace tech, software and hardware. Madhukar's question is that can Guardium help me collect, visualize parameter level scanning on the most vulnerable attack surface, users, laptop, and cloud PC? This is our first question.
Okay. So what we are seeing, to answer the question, is what we are seeing, especially on the endpoint, which is the laptops, desktops. We are seeing enterprises already have a DLP agent, which is taking care of that. So Guardium does not take care of anything on the endpoint, the end user's endpoint, like the laptops and the desktops, because we believe that there is already a DLP solution, the DLP agent, and there are already too many agents sitting on the endpoint, and we don't want to put one more agent. We are not into that space. But yes, from a discovery and classification perspective, we do integrate with DLPs, because we see that is a very important use case where we have to integrate with DLP to also give the tool the overall view. Because when we say structured, unstructured also covers, also holistically talks about the endpoint. So our to give a simple short answer is we are not into DLP, but we can integrate with DLP more from a discovery and classification perspective.
Okay, perfect. Hope that answer your question, Madhukar. Now, moving on to the next part, we have a question from Anupama M, and she's asking that does it also talk about what kind of sensitive data is being accessed? For example, what kind of P2 data?
PII data. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, yes, it does. It does talk about it. It does cover what kind of sensitive data is being accessed, like Aadhaar card, PAN card, or it could be any kind of PI data. And it gives you the complete audit trail of who, what, when, where, how. For that, it gives you that context for that PI data as well. So yes, the short answer is yes, we do that.
Perfect. Moving on to the next question from Sanku Lahiri. Sanku's question is that, do you have provision for sandbox kind of a arrangement where we can do in-depth evaluation of the solution?
Yes, yes, we do have. We do have a sandbox environment. We can definitely work with you to provide that, to do a detailed, so that you can do a detailed evaluation of the use cases.
Perfect. Another question from Ravi Ranjan is okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll share the guideline. Yeah, we'll share the
Uh,
guideline. We'll share. We have that. I just shared in the slide. We can share that. Not a problem.
Perfect. From Anupama M, we have a question that can we also build custom data rules from a DLP aspect?
Yeah, we can do that. So there are a lot of integrations which are available from a DLP aspect, whichever DLP you may have, because nowadays there are a lot of standardization in terms of the APIs. So we can always integrate with those APIs and do that. So yeah, short answer, yes.
Perfect. Got it. Okay. So thank you, Tushar, and thank you everyone for being such an attentive audience. On behalf of 𝐾𝐻 Business Media and IBM, I extend our sincere thanks to our speakers for sharing their expertise and to all of you for your valuable time and participation.
Thanks, Adil. Thanks,
And for the feedback, you can also scan the QR code. This is for all the attendees. Feel free to add your thoughts and feedbacks. And we hope that you have a pleasant and exciting day ahead. Thank you once again, and we look forward to engage with you further.
Thank you.